Do you spend hours each week creating Instagram content, but you're still not getting the sales and the wins that you see everyone and their mom sharing to their feed? It's really rough, but there's usually just a few simple changes you need to make to get there, and I'm going to help you. You are closer than you think. You can find the exact gaps that you have in your Instagram strategy, the gaps that are holding you back from getting clients from your content with my free Find and Fix the Gaps in Your Instagram Strategy quiz. All you have to do is take 5 minutes to fill out the quiz and you will get the exact roadmap you need to start getting sales from your Instagram content. Get your copy of the quiz at sociallyyours.biz/findandfixed. All spelled out, all one word, find and fixed, or check the link in the show notes. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Mompreneur Mastery. Do you ever feel like your business finances are a total mystery? You are not alone. Today, I'm going to chat with Courtney Martin, the financial fairy godmother who is empowering female entrepreneurs to unlock the secrets of their numbers and turn them into profits. I record this podcast while I'm home with my kids, so you might hear them in the background. If that doesn't sum up mompreneur life, I don't know what does. But you will still be able to enjoy this really great episode. Welcome to the Mompreneur Mastery podcast, where we share actionable Instagram strategies that fit into a busy mom's schedule so that you can get more engagement, more leads, and more sales in less time. I'm Sydney O'Brien, an Instagram strategist who started my business with 3 kids under 5 and found a way to do it without sacrificing quality time with my family and only working 2 hours a day. I love helping other mom business owners find that seemingly impossible mom work-life balance instead of spending too much time creating content that isn't getting them the results they want. If you're an overwhelmed but very ambitious business owner and you want to strategize the heck out of your Instagram account so that you can save time and make more sales, you're in the right place. Hey, Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Martin. I am an entrepreneur. I own my business called Quadrant Bookkeeping. So I do bookkeeping for female business owners, helping them out managing their finances. It's setting them up with a solid financial foundation so that they can continue to grow their businesses and make sure that nothing below them is going to crumble as they, get bigger and have more on their plates.
That is so important. And what made you want to be a mompreneur, like doing this while staying home?
Yeah, so I have a 2-year-old. He turned 2 about, oh my gosh, almost a month ago. March has gone by so fast.
It really
So
has.
he turned 2 at the end of February. And I had him, 2 years ago. And at the time, I was a teacher. I taught high school cooking classes. And I love teaching, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel like I could be a good teacher and a good mom because both of those things just require you to give your all while you're there. And I'm a person who I need my me time. I need time to recharge. I'm an introvert. I remember my first year teaching, I'd come home and my husband, who was then at the time my boyfriend, and he'd be like, "Why aren't you talking to me?" And I'm like, "I'm literally just all talked out. Like, I don't have anything else to give you." Because it's just like, I love teaching and I love being there for my students, but it did take so much from me. So when I was like looking at, I became a mother, I had this newborn and I knew I wanted to be able to raise him. I knew I wanted to be able to be active and do things with him. I didn't feel like I could do both well. And when the pandemic hit, my district was one of the ones who we had to teach in-person students. And we had to teach online students, but we had to teach them at the same time. I didn't have separate classes. So I had to be like, I had kids sitting in the classroom and then I had to sit there on the computer teaching everybody. And I had such a difficult time that year because I was constantly feeling like I was failing one set of kids. Either I wasn't interacting enough with the in-person kids because I was answering so many questions online, or I was ignoring the online kids because I had to be out in the classroom with my other students. And that really affected me. So I just knew I was like, I cannot be put in this situation where I have polarizing needs and constantly feel bad that I'm failing one set or the other. And I was just like, I just can't do it. When I was teaching, I also opened a virtual assistant business and I did pretty good there. But I did a lot of creative virtual work. And with that, I found it wasn't very consistent, the constant trying to find new clients and, just was applying for jobs, never knowing what's going to be happening next month. And when considering, being a mompreneur, staying at home, I knew that for my family, we needed that consistency, which is why I transitioned into bookkeeping, because it is like I get to work with my clients month to month to month instead of just shorter term projects. And I like the bookkeeping, of course.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the like introvert piece that you mentioned hits home a lot. I've actually talked to several different mompreneurs that like came from teaching with like similar stories. And yeah, that it's a very like emotionally draining, it seems.
It is. And I'm not going to say like every day is emotionally draining. Like when I was a teacher, I had a really great position. I had really great students. But I wanted to be there for them, and I couldn't also be there in the same way for my child at the same time. I just couldn't do both well. And not being able to do both well, I know would have just torn me up inside, and it would have made me feel awful. So yeah,
that makes sense. It's really interesting to see this like huge shift, and it might be because I live in like my little mompreneur echo chamber on Instagram, but it seems like I just see like so many moms taking advantage of like this flexibility and staying home with your kids while also having an entire business. So it's really cool. And I'm so glad we get to benefit from that.
I'm very glad that I live in today where we get to do this, because 20 years ago, this wouldn't have been really possible. Like, even if I'd opened up my own business, I probably would have still had like an office that I would have had to, then pay for as an expense for my business. Like, it just wasn't really heard of, like a virtual bookkeeper or social media manager, like even all these new positions that have opened up because of the way our world is. So I definitely feel lucky that I am in this time period where not only is it possible, but I'm actually doing it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of women who want to do something like we do. They don't want to put their kids in daycare. They don't want to have to go back into working in an office. And I think that was also one of my draws was, seeing these moms who are so heartbroken after, having to leave their kids at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks to go back to a job that they were like, I don't want to do that. One of the goals that I have is to be able to grow my business enough that I can hire other women and moms so that they aren't having to face those heartbreaking decisions, because I was just heartbroken seeing all these women. I was part of like a due date group. And so all our kids were born within like a month of each other. And just seeing those posts after post after post of like, I don't want to, and I have to, because it was just heartbreaking. So one of my goals when I get there is I want to be able to hire moms so that they have another option.
That is a great goal. And it's awesome, not because it means so much for your business, but also the ability to help another mom like that. Because those kind of service-based things are very easy to make virtual businesses. So I see a lot of like mom business owners that are like, do what I do, social media or like virtual assistant type of stuff.
Yeah. And I think that, again, just having the ability to do that is amazing. I wish there were more resources out there on how to do it well and how to like set up that solid foundation, because you can have a passion for what you do, but as a business owner, that's just not enough. Like, we have so many hats that we wear. Like, you do need to know the financial side. You do need to know how to market yourself. You do need to know sales. And so I think if possible, like just like what resources are out there. And I understand people can't give away things for free. I can't give away bookkeeping for free. Because then I wouldn't have a job and you wouldn't have a job. Like, we can't give away these things for free. But even just giving them a point where they can start off, where it doesn't have to be something paid, but they're still able to learn. They're still able to get their own clients so that they can further grow to the point where then they're not only like pulling an income in for themselves, then they can, again, spread that around by hiring others. So it's just like, giving away information to help them build their businesses is so important for other business owners to realize, because they could potentially become a client later.
Yeah, that's very true. You can help more people that way.
Yeah.
In lots of ways, honestly. Why did you go to being like a bookkeeper specifically? Was that like a skill you already had, or?
Yeah. So bookkeeping was actually something I did as a teacher. So I taught mainly cooking classes, and part of that is I was given budgets from the school, I was given budgets from the state, I was given money from like the students' families themselves to go out and buy ingredients and equipment that I needed in order to have the cooking labs that we did. And part of that was like, they were like, here's all your money. Now you got to keep track of it and record your expenses, reconcile your accounts every month. So I knew that this was something I enjoyed. I will say, when I was a teacher, I didn't do it every month, even though I was supposed to, because we just didn't really have the time. And the teachers don't have the time. But when I was able to sit down and I was able to work through it all, it felt like it was just very fulfilling to me. Numbers, like, they each have a place, and when you put them all in the right place, it makes a picture. And when you have the picture and it's not done, you have to be like, okay, what's wrong? And being able to like work through what's potentially wrong is really like, I just love doing that. Like, what's wrong, and then just finding out what's wrong is like, just brings me so much joy. It's like, I did it, So I knew I enjoyed bookkeeping. When I had my son, I did a lot of research into different, opportunities. Like, yes, I could, continue with virtual assistants and find out ways that I could, have longer contracts, new services that I could offer. I was just concerned when I was a virtual assistant, I was exceptionally niche down, which was so helpful because I was able to find clients who needed my specific services. And I was worried about trying to offer more generalized services as a virtual assistant, because I feel like it's harder to find clients for that. Whereas for bookkeeping, because that is a niche skill, like in and of itself, I felt more confident in being able to find clients who needed bookkeeping than just clients who needed a general VA.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I was very much looking at the stability. And I also will say, like, I didn't just go into this because I'm like, oh, I can make money doing this. It is something that I enjoy. And I think that those are two very important aspects. Like, if you are considering being an entrepreneur, making sure like it's something that you enjoy doing, as well as something that, you can do to help others.
Yeah. Getting that like satisfaction and having the joy doing it definitely makes it easier, like, to keep going. Because it can be rough, but it's worth it if it's the right thing.
Definitely. I was reflecting on this just a couple of weeks ago. I was on a walk and I was thinking about how, while I love being an entrepreneur, sometimes it's like, I just wish someone would tell me what to do. Like, I'd have a boss, and I wouldn't have to worry about like getting clients and all these other things. But on the other hand, I do get that freedom and flexibility. I get to choose who I work with. I get to choose what I do every day. I get like, yes, I have deadlines and things, but I can figure out how I'm going to get to that deadline. I don't have someone sitting there being like, you have to be here at 8 a.m. and you have to teach this class at this time. And then you like all of these other things. And so to me, like, yes, sometimes I do miss the structure of being told what to do. I would not trade it for the flexibility.
Yeah. Same. Like, it can be a little chaotic, which drives me insane at some points. Yeah. But that, like, the freedom of the flexibility is just like a much better fit for like me and also my whole family. So
right. Exactly.
So we talked earlier about how kind of chaotic being an entrepreneur is, and my audience specifically is mompreneurs, which just adds, as you know, this extra level of chaos. Is there some kind of structure that mompreneurs can follow when it comes to bookkeeping?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think one of the things that really intimidates people is they're like, oh, I'm going to have to go spend hours, I have to do this every week. Those kinds of things, like, it immediately is almost like a stopping point for them, because it just puts them off so much from even starting their bookkeeping. I personally like to choose a day the first week of the month. So, next month is April. April 1st is Monday. So anytime that full week, I'm going to choose a day to do my bookkeeping for the previous month. So it's not something that you have to like constantly be in software or constantly do, but I do recommend keeping up with it once a month, because letting it pile up past that, it becomes very hard to manage, very time consuming. So that's the first thing, is just set aside a day the first week of the month to do it for the previous month. That way, at least you're keeping up with it. I like to follow 3 major steps for bookkeeping. So the first one is going to be categorizing. So when you're looking at your software, what you're going to do is like you go in and it's pulling in the numbers from your bank. That's what it connects to. And so when it pulls in that information, it'll be like, okay, on March 18th, you paid for Canva and you paid this much for Canva. What was it for? And so that's categorizing. So you're going in, you're labeling, okay, Canva was a software subscription I have. So I'm going to label it a software. Okay, I have my email, which is Outlook. That's also a subscription. Okay, I bought office supplies off of Amazon, labeling it as office supplies, because your software doesn't know what you bought. It knows where you bought it, because that's usually what it brings in is the place. It doesn't know what you bought. So you have to take that and you have to categorize those transactions. So that's the first step. The second step is to reconcile your accounts. So at the end of the month, when everything is already categorized, what you want to do is you want to take your bank statement or your credit card statement and reconcile your accounts. This is double checking that everything that is in your software matches with what your bank says. Sometimes, if there's like an update, something will get missed. I have a bank that one of my clients has, and it will purchase something and then she'll go in and cancel the purchase. And so it'll show the charge, but it doesn't show the refund. And so then it's like, I know that there's a mistake there. So you're really just reconciling is double checking that what actually happened in your bank is actually in your software. And if not, like, okay, transactions are missing, I need to add them in. Okay, I've got extra transactions, I need to delete them. So like everything from your software is correct, so that when you do hand it over, there's going to be no problems with like your taxes and making sure that, again, you have all your expenses, which are your tax deductions, you have your income, and it's properly recorded. So categorize, then reconcile. And then the third thing is reading your reports. A lot of people, I will say, like, they've just glanced at their reports, which if you're at like a beginner level in your business, like you're just starting, is great. That's a great first step. But really understanding your profit and loss report and your balance sheet, because those are 2 separate reports that show different financial sides of your business, is very important to make sure that you're on track, and not just meeting your like income goals, like what do I want to make, but also like, okay, well, what's my savings goal? What's my what's the goal I have for the future? Because having those thoughts now and planning for them now and knowing how to look for them now is going to help you get there. If you just say, well, I want to have a really successful business and I want to grow and I want to hire other people, how are your numbers reflecting that? What are you doing to strengthen all of your numbers across the board so that you can live out those dreams? So it's not just reading your reports, which you should do. A lot of people just don't even do that step. First of all, read your reports, but really spend some time. I have a book here called The 60-Minute CFO, which stands for Chief Financial Officer. First 2 chapters talk about your balance sheet and how to read it and your profit and loss report. I think even just those first 2 chapters, I was literally over here going, my mind is blown. And I almost feel like giggling and being like, I know something you don't know, because it's just so powerful how this information is so impactful for your business. So categorize, reconcile, read your reports.
Super good information. And as you were saying that, I was like, oh man, a lot of this relates to Instagram. I constantly tell people, like,
you look at
read your insights, look at your numbers, make a plan around that. So because it's great to have goals, and like we all want to get those goals, but without like having a way specific way you have having a specific plan to meet those goals, like the chances
Right.
of it actually happening are like
Right. And just
slim.
even having that information to back up your goals.
Yeah.
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 I could sit here and say, I want to make $1 million this year. Well, I mean, could I? I'm not going to rule it out, but like, like,
Keep it realistic.
does my data support that? No.
Yeah. That's super good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I myself am thinking, man, I need to read my reports a little closer.
Probably. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, Cindy.
I do. You're like the best person to ask questions to, because I feel like I am not a numbers person at all. And like, especially with money things, I get so anxious. I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And that's why I really loved working with you. It's kind of intimidating to ask for help, especially with money things, because I feel like there's like this weird like shame thing, like don't talk about money. But you were always so like open and honest and like not judgmental. It was just amazing to work with.
I thank you for that. That's definitely something that I try to embody. I don't want anyone to feel ashamed of the things that they've done. Have I done things with my own money, my own business money that I'm not proud of? Of course. Have I made investments that weren't good? Yes. Have I, put things on credit cards I shouldn't have? Yes. And I think that you were right. There is a shame in there. It is. And I come from like a place of, I am ashamed, not that people are shaming me. I saw a post recently about someone talking, they went to the bank with their young daughter and their daughter was like, why is everyone whispering at the bank? And it's against, and the mom answered, well, it's people don't want other people to know about their money. Like they don't want that known. And it's just something that I feel like as a culture, like have been taught to be so private about. Even like my mom, like I'll like try to talk about money with my mom and she'll be like, that's none of your business. And I'm like, like, it's just like, you don't talk about that with people. So it is something that's hard to talk about because you're taught not to. And it's something that we're taught to feel shame of when we do make mistakes. And that's something that I grew up feeling a lot of shame for things I didn't know. I had a developmental delay and my teachers didn't know. And so the things that I did wrong, I feel like to me, teachers had strong reactions to, and I can understand how it was frustrating. Like they told me to do something and I didn't listen. Well, on the back end of that, I have a really bad short-term memory. So you may have told me to do something, but I literally forgot. And so I can see how it was frustrating that they were constantly like, Courtney, do this, Courtney, do this, Courtney, do this. And I remember like going to teachers when I didn't understand things. And I had a teacher in high school. This is awful. I had a teacher in high school my senior year. And it was like one of those classes like you needed to graduate. And I was like, I went to him after like our first test and I had marked an answer. And I thought it was right. I didn't understand why I got it wrong. Cause I was like, I thought this was the correct answer. And so I went and I asked him, I was like, hey, I got this wrong and I don't understand. And he was like, well, explain it. And I was like, well, I just don't understand it. And he's like, no, you need to explain it. And I was like, I don't understand. And he just would not, he'd like, no, you need to explain it. And I was just like, I literally just stopped. I put in zero effort in that class. I remember turning in my homework late all the time, sitting out in the hallway instead of being in class because I didn't do my homework. Like, because I was like, I'm not going to try when I have tried. And this is how I met. So unfortunately, like with those experiences in mind, I never want anyone to feel that way. I never want anyone to feel like they're stupid or dumb. I never want someone to feel like they can't come to me and ask me a question because I've been there and it sucks.
Yeah, it does. And I know I am grateful for your like expertise and that amazing just understanding. And I'm sure like so many other people are as well, because there is like that weird hush hush around money. And like, I kind of get it. Like it's personal, but also it just creates so many problems in the future. It's like, is it worth it to be that hush hush about it? I don't think so.
Especially with certain people. like your bookkeeper, your banker, your CPA.
Yeah.
Those are definitely people like you should be able to open up to. I do think the financial industry as a whole, we're not great at communicating. I'm really bad at following up with people. Like if you ask me a question, sometimes I'll be like, I'll read it and then like my son will like go like step in the dog water. So then I put my phone down and then I literally just completely forget to respond.
Do that all the time.
Right. And then I'm like, oh my God, I never responded. Are you still looking for help? Do you still need me? That's like go back like a month later. And so I will say like, we're not great at communicating as a whole. I personally have a minor in communication, like interpersonal communication. So talking with other people, I'm better than I think most financial professionals because I hear all the time. I asked a question and they literally just even looked at me like I was stupid, or I was made to feel stupid. And I've even been on a call where I didn't know something. So I hired another bookkeeper to help me out, but she was kind of expensive too. And she asked me a question and I was like, oh, I don't ask my clients for that. And she was like, well, you need it. And it was just like the tone, like everything. Like I've even, and then of course that turns into, should I even be doing this? Like that imposter syndrome. And I just can't imagine how it is for other people, like, who are hiring these, like, again, like I even hired someone and they did that to me. So the financial industry as a whole is not great with communication. And I hate that because at the end of the day, it does make people feel bad. And that's again, one of the things like, I don't want people to feel bad.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I feel like you can find that in like, it's an issue in lots of different like service providers because you have like this ongoing working relationship that should be kind of like close knit. It kind of grows to be that. So you need to have that good communication for it to be like a good relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as a bookkeeper, do you see lots of entrepreneurs making the same mistakes in their bookkeeping?
I do. For me, I think the biggest one is I get people who don't have business bank accounts. That gets a little hazy because it just becomes so much harder for you to like record your business expenses, which are tax deductions. That's what lowers how much you're going to owe on taxes. There's some other things, of course, that go into lowering the amount you owe on taxes. But the biggest one is having a separate business bank account is like number one, especially for like new entrepreneurs. Yeah. The second thing I see is I see businesses who are maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe they have a loan or a credit card and just recording those transactions properly in their bookkeeping software causes a lot of issues if they don't know how to do it properly. For example, if you say you have, your credit card and you mark a payment to your credit card as an expense and then income on your credit card, and those are wrong. And so I see a lot of issues with categorizing transactions, especially, like I said, as you get more in depth into your finances, like having those loans and credit cards and making sure things are categorized properly. I do account reviews. So this is for people who have bookkeeping software. They've been doing it themselves. And on average, I save clients about $7,000 and like being like, this is wrong. You should change it. Like just because of like little errors that they made, and these businesses are making anywhere from like $30,000 to $80,000 a year. They're not like huge businesses, but these mistakes add up. And not only is it a mistake that you could potentially owe like fees, like it's a mistake that you're going to have to pay back. Then you're looking at you have to pay fees and penalties because you did it wrong in the first place. So then you're even out more money.
Yeah.
And so those are, I think, the two biggest things is not having a separate business bank account. And then if you're not sure what you're doing with your bookkeeping, not like getting help.
Yeah, that is excellent advice. I had no idea what I was doing at all. And I actually reached out to you. So definitely highly recommend Courtney for that.
Thank you.
And now we were talking a little bit earlier about, helping other mom business owners with hiring them and making services kind of more accessible. And that's what your membership does, I feel, it's like super accessible to help mompreneurs learn how to do it with having that, like those expert eyes on it.
Yeah. So I have my monthly membership. I try to keep it affordable so that the people who like they need bookkeeping. Like one of my things that I say a lot is every business needs bookkeeping, but not every business needs a bookkeeper. Learning how to do it yourself is fine, but if you're not sure, if you're not even sure like where to go to learn, that's what I feel like my membership is for, because I'm teaching you specifically how to do your bookkeeping. There are plenty of bookkeeping courses out there, and I'm sure that they're wonderful, but I don't think anything can replace having that person who's right there with you, answering your specific questions about your specific business.
Yeah, I feel that way about a lot of things, especially in business. I'm like, I would so much rather have someone talk about like my specific issues than like a course that goes over these very generic things and then still have questions, especially with something like bookkeeping where the mistakes add up.
They not great. Right? Yeah, they do. They literally add up.
Literally. Because we're on the theme of mistakes here. As a bookkeeper, are there mistakes that you have made that you can spare others from?
So, when I'm going to talk a little bit about when I was a virtual assistant, and even now as a bookkeeper. One of the mistakes I made when I was a virtual assistant is, again, I didn't have a business bank account when I was a virtual assistant. And I didn't have bookkeeping software. So those are two mistakes that I made before I was even a bookkeeper. So the first one with like not having that bank account, I wasn't able to keep my expenses, especially separate from my personal expenses. My second year of filing taxes was 2022, and it was right after my son was born. I had a lot of post-birth complications. Like I had to go back into I wasn't even like and healed, and I say healed lightly, until like the end of March. Taxes are due April 15th. And so because I didn't have my stuff together, I didn't have everything already done, I didn't have receipts, I just like filed taxes with my income instead of like taking any sort of tax deductions. And that was a huge mistake because I owed so much more on top of having an unpaid maternity leave. So that was definitely a mistake there. And why it was a mistake, because you are like, it may sound silly, like I don't need a separate account or I don't need software, when in reality it does help you so much at the end of the day, like get to where you do need to be. As a bookkeeper, one of the mistakes that I made at first was I had connected my CRM with QuickBooks, which is the accounting software I use for myself. And when I did that, I didn't realize it was also pulling in the invoices from my CRM, because I send my invoices through my CRM, which is HoneyBook. And so HoneyBook and QuickBooks were talking, and I would receive the money like through my bank account, and then I recorded it as income, while also HoneyBook was recording it as income. So then it was doubling my income. So when I looked at my reports and I was like, I didn't make like $10,000 last month. I was like, whoa, what happened here? And I was able to kind of go in and I was able to look, and I was like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Because HoneyBook was already recording it as income, I was categorizing it when it hit my bank account wrong. So even though like I'm a bookkeeper, I'm always learning new things, and I'm very big on learning new things. I was just showing this to someone else. This book that I mentioned, the 60-Minute CFO, I'm not paid or anything. It's great. So I can continue to learn, and I can continue to do better, and I can continue to, just help others and support others the best way that I can. And so that's something that I learned. I made several posts about it, because it is something that I've seen this a lot too, where income is double recorded because they have an invoice and they don't mark it against the invoice. They just mark it as income a separate time when it hits their bank account, and then their income's doubled. I will say that's a big mistake that I see with people DIYing their books, and they're not sure on how to do their bookkeeping. And then when they hand that off to their tax preparer, their income is doubled for the year, and then the taxes are the doubled amount. So
that's very scary.
It's very scary.
Oh boy. And now you have a tool that helps people find the right software to use for their bookkeeping, don't you?
I do. So one of the things that I was looking at as I see a lot of questions on like, what software should I use? Like, what do I need to track my expenses? And how do I keep it separate from my personal money and all this stuff? So I created a quiz. You go in, you answer a few questions about your business. It takes about a minute to answer the questions. I think there's like 6 or 7. And it's about your business. Like, what do you need? Do you accept Apple Pay, for example, is one of the questions. And based on your answers for what your business needs, it will give you a great option for bookkeeping software that meets your needs specifically. The options are Wave, Xero, or QuickBooks. Those are like, there's more than just those 3 options out there, by the way. You could do your research on all the different bookkeeping softwares. Those are the 3 that I see most often. Those are the 3 that most people are using. So when it comes to it, if you need help, those are going to be the ones that you're going to be able to find the most help for, because there's other softwares out there as well. But these ones I feel like are good. Like, you have your good, very basic option, Wave. You have your good, like, mid-level option, which is Xero, and then you have your good higher level, has a lot of extra capabilities, which is Quick. The reason I also wanted to give this is not, I see so many times people recommend QuickBooks. Like, it's immediate. QuickBooks, like 50% of small businesses immediately choose QuickBooks as their bookkeeping software. And while as a bookkeeper, I like QuickBooks, not every business needs it. It is very powerful, and it has a lot of great in-depth, like, financial reporting options. But again, not every business needs that. So I hate for people to pay for it because it is the best. It has the higher price tag. So I hate for people to pay for that if they don't need it. Because, like, I don't want people to, again, have to spend more money than they need to.
Yeah, that's a great resource for people. And that's a free quiz. I'm going to put the link for it in the show notes so you can definitely check it out and potentially save money. That's awesome. And where can people find you on Instagram?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is at Quadrant Bookkeeping, and I'm going to spell that. I was like, man, this is a great name, and then, like, spelling it. So that's QUADRANTBOOKKEEPING.
Courtney, this was great. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sydney. I really enjoyed it. I know I had to reschedule like twice. I was like, I need to be here. I was like, I'm going to do it. Thank you for being patient with me.
Time I got locked out of my office, so I was running a little late.
We did it.
Made it happen.
We did.
Yeah, that's what counts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I gained so much insight about bookkeeping, and I'm definitely going to be using Courtney's 3-step strategy for monthly bookkeeping. And don't forget to check out her free quiz in the show notes, and also give her a follow on Instagram. The link for that will also be in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to Mompreneur Mastery, simple Instagram strategy for busy moms. If you were listening to this episode and found yourself nodding along, I would love it if you would find me on Instagram and send me a message telling me your biggest takeaway. My handle is at socially.yours.strategist. And don't forget to grab your free 1 month of Conversation Starters content calendar so that you know exactly what to post to get more comments without spending hours brainstorming Instagram post ideas. You can get it at sociallyyours.biz/content calendar, or head to the link in the show notes. Hey Mompreneur, I know that selling your offers on Instagram is really hard. First, you gotta know how to word your content to make sure that it clearly shows how amazeballs your offer is. And then you also have to know how to craft the content to make sure it appeases the algorithm gods so it actually gets seen by the people most likely to buy it. My goal is to help moms help their families through their online businesses. That is why I made Carousels That Sell. Carousels That Sell is a collection of 7 Instagram carousels and captions that have made me over $20,000. So I turned them into plug-and-play templates so that you can get the same results. Carousels That Sell is super easy to use, so you can easily create and schedule the content, and will help sell your offers for you while you're off playing with your kids. Grab the templates that have made me over $20K for only $27 at sociallyyours.biz/carousels-that-sell. so you can grow your business bank account faster than your kid outgrows their clothes.